Do I say salam or do I say salam?
You say salam.
I say salam?
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes it even better.
Right? Okay, salam then. But let me also turn this way. Okay. Salam Nargis, thank you so much for coming. I'm very excited to have this interview with you today. So maybe you can briefly introduce yourself.
Salam everyone, salam to you. Well, I'm Nargis Mail. I'm from Afghanistan, and I am currently studying in LPC UWC in Hong Kong.
Right. So how did you get to know about LPC? What brings you here?
Well, first of all, thank you for all setting all of this in your efforts. That I forgot in the first part, but secondary, when we're talking about LPC or like let's say about Hong Kong, it came from a person who was just blocked and sort of all of the obstacles around her, and she was just seeking every possible way to get out of that obstacle or to just like find a way out. And how I heard about it was like really funny because I heard about it from Facebook, but I didn't have Facebook account. I didn't like it. Honestly, it was too much for me. And then it was one of my friends who sent a screenshot of that page for me.
Yeah.
And then she was like, "Oh, like Nargis, let's apply to this." And I was like, "You know what? All of these scholarships are bought because that's what happens in Afghanistan because they just bribe the scholarship owner and then they buy the scholarships for people. So it's just they announce it for their own like public reputation, but they never. Those are never real. Like
so they never send anyone. It's just like wow.
The seats are always bought. And then I was like, that's like a fake thing. Like, why would I send my whole entire information for them to just look at it and pass by? You know. But she started to like take it seriously, and then she started applying. 2 days later, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a go because like it's just why not? And then I gave it a go. And suddenly I got the email and it was like, oh, you're accepted for the first stage. Let's go and proceed with the second stage. That's how I heard about it. I didn't hear it from like any other friends. Pretty much a lot of people were discouraging me as well. Oh, you're 16 years old. You're going alone. You're a girl. You can't travel. It's too expensive. It's outside. Your parents are not going there with you. A lot of people were discouraging in terms of even like my own family were not like 100% supportive until the point that they knew that this is actually valid. So that's the story of me hearing about OPC. And then if you're asking about coming to LPC, that was an interesting story, as you might know as well. Well, first of all, I have the worst passport, so like if you search about Afghanistan's passport, it ranks first and being the worst. That happened actually. I searched about it and it was like so funny because I applied for the visa and everything was going smoothly, but as an Afghan girl I couldn't travel alone. So I need a male guardian with me, and since I can't bring any male here with me into Hong Kong, I needed to first go with a male to like another country, Iran, Pakistan, Turkey, and any other country.
And then from the country, like where
and
it's
then
allowed
from that country, I can travel alone as a 16 years old who's a girl and doesn't have a male guardian because their rules are different. So for the first part, we had like some relatives and my sister as well living like not permanently in Pakistan. So I traveled with my mom and my brother to Pakistan, and we went there, and I stayed with my sister and my brother and my mom because their visas were just ending soon, so they returned back to Kabul. And I stayed in Pakistan waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for my Hong Kong visa to be approved. But since the passport itself is very, very weak and not valid, I really struggled to get, like, I had to send a lot of more documents than you guys to just get that visa. And coming here, like, I couldn't come straight, so there was like to Thailand, and then from Thailand to like Hong Kong. It was
even though it's not that far, but then you need to.
But the good part is that I'm here, so I'm talking here from LPC in Hong Kong.
I'm very happy to know that. And how about how you get in back then? I mean, is it the same procedure that you need to meet someone in Iraq? Did you say or
Iran?
Iran. And then do you need to fly back again?
Well, first of all, when you go there, when you land in the country, they're gonna question you, but then it's just, they can't just deport you. So you can safely land there if you're an Afghan citizen. You can go there, and then for coming back, you either need to have like the dual citizenship. You need to be a citizen of that country, or have like a green card or something, to be able to travel alone without a male guardian. Which the possibilities are not like it's in their favor. Like if they want to let you go, they let you go. And if they don't want to let you go, then you're just, I don't know, you're abandoned.
It depends on the day.
And depends on the day and their mood as well.
Okay.
But to play it safe, you need to go to another country with your male guardian.
Okay.
And you need to take the visa of that country, stay there.
Yeah.
Perhaps like as a tourist or visitor, and then like proceed with your procedure of coming to the other country from that country. So I did it from the first time I did it from Pakistan. The second time I did it from Iran.
Iran, yeah.
And both with my parents, with my family,
Yeah.
with my brother. Mainly because he's my male guardian.
Yeah, but that's good that you have him. I mean, to help you to get here. So I'm very happy to have you here again.
Yeah, actually, thanks to him. Like credit to him.
Yeah. And how did you find Hong Kong in general when you first came? What were the impressions? How was it, like wow or?
Well, I was a girl who didn't travel a lot. I was like Afghanistan and mostly to Pakistan, which is like second Afghanistan. Like what they call Pakistan is the second home for Afghans. And we were actually like, it was sort of the same thing, you know, like not too much cultural difference between us, but a lot of similarities. But when I first came here, although like that was the funny thing is that like I wasn't too shocked because I was a kid who had a tablet, and then I was always watching like Americans, you know, and like videos of other countries because I was really interested to travel, and then sort of that was my lens through the other side of the sky, to the other side of my border of Afghanistan, and I knew what people might look like, what people might do, what other countries might look like.
Right.
And I had also the experience of like, let's say, talking with my dad because he was like traveling a lot, like to a lot of countries, and then he was just like sitting there and talking about us, showing pictures. So, I had an overall idea of what it's gonna look like. Yeah. But when I came here first, I was like, no. Well, yes, but no. It was because I had a very stereotypical view of, let's say, China, Hong Kong.
Right.
And then I didn't see those houses that were like this. I didn't see people like doing this. I didn't see people holding chopsticks and then pushing it in their hair. And I was like, oh,
that's such a disappointment.
Disappointment, but not. And it was I thought like people told me that Hong Kong is like really sort of like Dubai stuff, like a lot of buildings,
right?
And I imagined like Seoul buildings, but when I came here, I saw like no, nature and buildings, you know, combination of both.
Yeah,
I loved it. The first like for the first time, my all the sorrow and pain that I was going through and not getting the visa, when I first landed here, it was just finally it was taken off of my shoulders. I think that was a great part. Yeah, but cultural differences, it was a lot. People that dress the way that I never imagined them to dress. Not that I have a problem with it, but it's just different than the way that back home. And then it was different being a hijabi as well. Like at first when I came here, I at least expected some numbers of people who were wearing hijab. But the first time that I came here, I was like, oh, am I the only one?
No, I mean, yeah, it's pretty rare. Yeah, you can still see them. Yeah,
but later on when I like knew the communities, where they were living, who they are, I was like, yeah, no, I found my niche group, and I do see some hijabis as well.
Right.
Like I'm used to it now.
Right, that's really good. And how about in terms of school, like coming to an international school from Kabul, like average, I don't know, whatever the school it was. So what were the differences here?
Well, my school was the best school back home.
Oh, you see, not
because
average.
It was a private school, but even our best is, let's say, the worst here. Because we used to be called international, but most international schools in Afghanistan are just international because they use either Oxford syllabus, or they teach in English. That's like the only difference with international and non-international schools. And then I was sort of in an international private school, and then it was different because we were, first of all, gender segregated. So you would never see a boy and a girl sitting in this distance. But from like grade 3rd, we were gender segregated.
And it's like it's in all schools, like no
in
matter
all
the private.
Schools. Not even like be it private or international or not. That's like the way that the government has the law. So for each school, you need to have 2 separate schools. So at my school was like girls and boys as well. So gender segregation was the first thing.
Right.
And the second thing was like the way that people dress. For me, I was like systemized back home. Like I was wearing my uniform. I had very strict rules in the way I was interacting with people, the way I was interacting with my teachers, the way I was interacting at all generally.
Yeah.
Like you were, most of the time you were not allowed to sit this way. You had to sit in a very like this way.
Okay.
It was just so
Okay.
weird. Like the restrictions that we had was so weird. Coming here, I'm calling my teachers by their first name.
Right.
Like I'm saying like, "Hi, John," and I'm like, "Okay." No, back home we used to call them either teacher, sir, madam. You know, like really respectful way.
Right.
It's not that we're not respecting them here. It's
No,
just
it's
that
just
it's
different.
different.
Yeah.
Different cultures, and yeah, in terms of like lessons, we were not allowed to bring phones or laptops in the school, like not even at all. Like you were not even able to touch it.
Wow.
Everything was like textbooks and writings, and I had a lot of notebooks, like 7 subjects daily. We were studying it
Yep.
for like 45 minutes, and then 7 notebooks. So my whole like I used to weigh my school bag, it was 7 kilograms.
Wow.
Yeah,
7.
with all the like water bottles and
Ay, ay,
all
ay.
the stationery and stuff.
Okay.
But here I come here and I'm like, my
It's all-
laptop, put it in my bag, let's go
Yeah,
to school.
that's it.
And also like boarding school is like so different because like I used to get prepared, eat my breakfast, and then go outside of the house to
Yeah.
go to the school. But here I'm just like waking up and I'm like, oh, I still have time.
Yeah,
so
you just leave
5
for-
minutes to the class, I get ready, and then I come to the class. So these was like really sort of interesting differences. But I didn't hate it. It wasn't a shock for me.
Yeah.
I loved it, but like if you're asking me, I still feel the difference. You
Yeah.
know? I'm used to it, but I know the difference.
Right. So would you say it wasn't hard for you to adjust? You just like accepted it's the way it is and that's it? Or like
Well, if you say about adjusting, it's different things because like if you're saying about adjusting, the situation that I had was like really hard, and I had other reasons that I couldn't adjust to the community or the school,
right.
or the way it was, and the school is very academically challenging as well. So that was part of the reason maybe I would say I couldn't adjust like really easily.
Right.
Coming late was another reason as well. Like you're just outside of
course.
the community, you're just standing back there. You have the experience too as well.
Yeah.
And then the other reason was that like yeah part of the adjusting was that I was longing for it. For long years I hated the education system in Afghanistan.
Right.
For long years I wanted to just go like this in my school and sit in my classroom with a laptop in front of me.
Right.
So that was like part of it that I was like, oh yeah, I'm longing for it. That's amazing. That's good. But just because of the other reasons and other logistics, that made me like a bit hard to adjust.
Yeah.
Or to get used to. But I would say it wasn't a shock. It wasn't something that you didn't want. It's just that you needed time.
Of course, you needed time to get used to that.
Yeah.
And how many grades did you finish back home before coming here?
Well, supposedly I should have finished like 11th grade.
Yeah. And in
But-
total, you have 12.
In total, we have 12.
12. Okay.
But I didn't finish my 10th grade. It was half of my 10th grade.
Right.
Through which it was like August 15th that Taliban came, and then we couldn't go to school
Right.
anymore. So it was like 9.5 years of school
Okay.
that I went to. Yeah, that's how much I finished, and then I applied here with the half of my 10th grades.
Right.
So that was like sort of the finalized.
Okay, got it. But we'll go deeper into that a bit later. Let's then start from the history. So basically coming from Belarus, I'd say that our history classes, they're very European based, and we don't actually get a lot of perspectives from outside that, let's say, territory, and that's it. So that's why I didn't know a lot about the history of Afghanistan. And when you're trying to search it on the internet, of course, you're getting like, only those kind of already filtered perspectives, and they're usually one-sided because, I mean, history is like, from which perspective you look at it. So that's why I want to hear from you, like, what would you say, just what made Afghanistan the way it is today from historical perspective, how it actually like all came to the point where it is right now?
Well, first of all, I want to mention that like I think for each country, they're going to like rewrite their history at some point.
Definitely.
And they're going to rewrite it in a narrative style or like in a voice that is only focused on one part. So my country, like let's say my history was rewritten, and it was really focused on like the battles that we fought. It was interesting because it was only like focusing on one perspective. Like we wouldn't just learn about all of it. We had only one section of our book that was about like other countries, which was like really basic and general. You can find it in Wikipedia. But for our own, it was like really focused and much detailed. And for the history, if you're just going back, it's like 5,000 years ago, where like Afghans nearly came to the land and like settled in and made a territory or like a kingdom for themselves. And then we're talking about the Alexander the Great sort of conquering Afghanistan, and then after that the Mughal conquering Afghanistan. And then we're going back to like the fights that Afghanistan had throughout. I would say from 17th century onwards. It was the British army, the Great Britain fight against Afghans, which was like pretty much a long time, and then it was finished sort of with Britain losing the fight in 1921. And then there was a series of civil wars that led to another war, the Russia and Afghanistan war. And I think that's like, I'm making it a really brief, not
of course,
much detail as well. But that's like, I think regarding to the question, what made Afghanistan, in my perspective, which would be very different from a politician perspective and everyone as well. But I think like what made Afghanistan was, first of all, the people and their resistance.
Right.
I wouldn't say the word war because I don't think it's like a good fit in this question. I'd say it's the resistance that we had to build our own, be independent, live on our own. Whether that actually really came into life or not, that is another part to be discussed. But what made Afghanistan was the people who were resistant, and they were just having this initiative and intention in their heart to live freely. So our intention to live freely was part of the main thing that made Afghanistan Afghanistan today.
Okay. And like, as you see, like, I mean, if we talk about, like, for example, Great Britain invasion or like USSR invasion, what do you think attracts all of those like big players to come to Afghanistan and actually, like, I don't know, establish their own power, or what are they seeking there? Why is it like such an attractive place for the big countries to come?
Well, I was wondering this since I was 8, and I was like, leave me alone. Like, I'm living in my own country. Like, why are you doing this? Because I was like reading history, and from really, I would say like grade 5th and 6th, you're gonna start to like read through history, and also like your parents when they were just narrating stories from their bag. That's like history, part of history as well. This question might be very different from a person who is like a political. Who has a political stance or something, but like from my perspective, I think the invasion happens when a country A, who is an attacker, who attacks or who invades, sees a potential threat in country B. So they want to sort of like get away with that threat, or they see a potential benefit that they can exploit in that country B, and then they do it through invasion, they do it through colonization or imperialization, some way or another that make the country B a potential inferior, not a potential greater than the other country. So I think like I remember one of these things that I went to. It was one of the events, like 30th, 50th anniversary of like our school, and it was like the UWC gala dinner as well. And I went there, and there was this like professor that I talked to you about before as well. He's like Professor Mahbubani. And then he was like, he had his whole like I think PhD, and he had published a book about has China won, and in his book like he was basically talking about how greed, human desire for wanting more and more and more ruins everything. And, like this nature of wanting like greed for more and more, that like really and he was like explaining to the context of like, let's say today's USA. But I think that links back with every country who invaded or who fight. Even Afghanistan, we fought a lot of like other countries, and then we reached to like, let's say India and Pakistan, we invaded them. That's like the greed that we had and the potential, and also like wanting more land, wanting more political power, and not wanting any threats near to ourselves. That's how like I think that's why Afghanistan has been like, and also one of the reasons is like in our history books, most of the times Afghanistan was called the heart of Asia because of its like geographical location. So I think that really like, because of the geographical location, that is part of the reason why countries were like exploiting benefits from it through invasion.
So it was okay. And how about like right now? I know that you have a lot of, I mean, partially probably because of that, you have a lot of cultures like mixed, lots of nationalities presented in Afghanistan. So how does it actually work? How do you all like find this common language? How do you like share the land living in Afghanistan? How it works for you?
Well, I want to talk about its beauty, but then there are parts that
Right.
they're inevitable. You can't just turn a blind eye into them. Well, first of all, it is so interesting because in Afghanistan, well, let's say if I'm talking to you and you're like, I'm Belarusian, I'm not gonna ask you what kind of Belarusian are you. You're just Belarusian,
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's just the way it
like,
is.
oh yeah, but me, no, I am this from this tribe and this tribe. We have different tribes. We're very diverse in terms of our own country. We have 34. That's like provinces or like states that we have, but in terms of like cultural groups or minorities, I would say ethnic minorities, there are a lot of 18, 19 to 20. They're different, and some of them are minorities, some of them are of majority.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sort of from the majority, and
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of other minorities as
Right.
well. And it is so interesting because on one part it's so amazing to have that. Like, honestly, I don't need to travel a lot of countries to see a lot of
Of
different
course.
cultures. Like,
Yeah.
if within my own country there's a lot of different things to explore, and that's really amazing. But at the same time, partially one of the reason that civil war started was because of the difference,
Yeah.
the inferiority and stuff, and then the population, how this population of this tribe outweighs this number, so let's start a fight. So that's
Okay.
like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
how some civil wars were started. And for quite a long time, I would say, there was this sort of bad perspective in terms of, like, the two tribes had problem with each other, and then they were not quite happy with each
Yeah.
other. And some I wouldn't call it a genocide, but I would not call it a genocide as well. There was some genocide happening of like one tribe of Afghanistan as well. So
Mm-hmm.
that's like how minorities and ethnic majorities have been in fights. And if you read through like some books, for example, like from Khalid Hosseini, he is an African American author,
Okay.
and he has like famous books. One is the Kite Runner, one is the Thousand Splendid Suns. That through that he explains this majority and minority issues in a very fictional way, but at the same time, it has its root causes in
Right.
Afghanistan. So I think, well, that from its like sort of negative side, but from the beauty side, I love it. You're just there are a lot of different languages spoken that you don't necessarily need to
Yeah.
know all of them. There are only two official languages, which is Persian
Yep.
or Dari, and Pashto,
Right.
because it's the majority of the population. So that's like the two languages that both of them are amazing. I love them.
You speak both.
I partially speak Pashto. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want my audience to be like, then speak Pashto.
Well, okay.
I know when people speak, I can speak as well,
Mm-hmm.
because you learn it in your school.
Right.
So that's how you learn it. But that's like how the way most people in most tribes communicate with each other, either through Pashto
Yeah.
or Persian. That's like the common languages.
Okay. And how about like, okay, if we're talking about your school, how should I say, cultures, tribes were presented within one school?
It links back to the point that I mentioned about like the bad perspective that we had from each other in the civil wars. So I would say throughout Afghanistan we are diverse, but people find their niche. So one
Okay.
tribe is in this part, and then another tribe is in this part to avoid clashes between each other,
So
to
you
avoid
would say you're
wars. And then
separated.
another part is living on another part. So my area that I was living in, it's in Kabul. It's in the capital of Afghanistan. The area that I was living in, most people from north of Afghanistan were living in. So I would say people who were speaking Persian, mostly Persian-speaking people were in my school. Some of the people who were speaking Pashto, which is another tribe, were there as
Yeah.
well. But you would rarely find other ethnic minorities. It is because that there was not too much exposure to them and potential like threats for those students. They would feel like an outsider.
Yeah.
They would feel like they wouldn't feel comfortable. Sometimes the way that they speak, like they have a dialect, and then dialect within like 6 years old kids are just going to make them different.
I mean, yeah.
And that is going to be like bullying and stuff. So
Uh-huh.
that's why it's not that the school wouldn't admit them. Of course they would, but the parents themselves wouldn't feel comfortable living in that sort of area that they don't have a lot of people
Right.
from their own tribe. So
Right.
that's like how it went. But I do remember one of my classmates being from a very different tribe. I loved her. I would always sit next to her and ask her about, like, she was Turkmen,
Yeah.
So I was like asking her, oh, what is this in your language? What is that in your language? What do you do? Oh, like tell me about the cultures when someone marries someone, and
Right.
like all of this, and she was amazing. Like her language was amazing. I was practicing one of these chants that was in her language
Okay.
to like speak it
Yeah.
out and like chant it when we were doing the conferences and stuff.
Right.
And I don't remember if I did it or not quietly, but I was like practicing a lot. So
Right.
that's from the beautiful, amazing part of it.
No, that's really nice. And how about like how others treated her? I mean, you're potentially very interested in all of this diverse culture, so that's what brings you here as well. But how about the other students in your school?
I would not speak from her behalf because that would be something that she can decide on.
That's fair.
But I would say there were parts that people thought like they were stereotypical
Right.
ideas about her tribe. And even myself, I thought when I first looked at her, I thought she's from another ethnic minority. And when I
Right.
asked her, she was like, "No, I'm from this one." And some people were like treating her not so well. Some kids that were like ignorant, and they were not exposed to a lot of like different ethnic group
Yeah.
minorities as well. So they were just so different. But like from, let's say, from teachers or from most of the students, they were really understanding of her. They were treating her well, except for some people that had their own biases against some ethnic minorities, which obviously you cannot just you cannot leave it alone. But still, we try to treat her well, and we try to always teach people that it's like she's part of us. She's
Yes.
one of the ethnic
Yep, of
minorities, and
course.
she's representing an ethnic minority, and
Yes.
that is amazing.
Yes.
But she had some problems. I would say that one of like she invited one of her parents once, and that was just not a pleasant conversation. But after that, I think she had a good experience.
Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah. And I was like, there was a thought in the back of my mind, like going on that religion maybe can be somehow unifying factor, between all of those like tribes, cultures. So is it like truly works this way, or you wouldn't say so? Like,
For most Afghans, it is surprisingly. You know how like in I don't exactly remember the year, but there was this year that a Pashtun, like an ethnic minor, it's an ethnic majority. The elderlies came and then they made the Afghan nation. And through that, one of the kings of that time, Ahmad Shah Baba, he is he ruled the country for 40 years. And that is because he had really great connection with the religious leaders.
oh wow.
That's how like religion plays a very significant role.
Okay.
And most of the wars that were, let's say, civil wars, that was because of the religion as well. So I would say it does unify people a lot to a lot of extent. Our country is like Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. It's not Republic of Afghanistan. It's Islamic Republic.
Right.
Republic. So that's like 99.9% of the population is Muslim,
Right.
or identifying as Muslim, and that it really does unify people. That's like how a lot of like kings and a lot of presidents has used this way to influence people, and that's how like actually they established a very good kingdom, and they were really well known people.
I mean, yeah.
That is how it unifies. But from a perspective that is like there is no diversity in terms of religion, and when a person from a different perspective comes, and then a person doesn't identify as a Muslim, or a person doesn't not necessarily do whatever let's say Islamic rules are in a country, they become the rebel. They become the person who is against it. Like that's how like one of the civil wars between Afghans happened, was that the communist and anti-communist, which was like the Islamic group, Islamic Jihad group, which mostly the population of Afghanistan were standing with, and there was this communist minority that were like they didn't want the religion.
Yeah.
So that's how the religion it created a war.
Yeah, it wasn't a unified
Although it
factor.
was not meant to, but it created a war because people were really holding on to it. So if exploiting a religion in these type of religious countries to unify, you actually can, because it has a really good influence. But if you're using it to like, you can use religion as a weapon to separate people or segregate people.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay, so let you tell us what happened. How has your life changed after 2021? Like, what was that before and what it became after?
We're talking about the collapse of a
Yes.
city, of a country that I didn't dream of, you know? For 20 years, when I was born, they were taking my hand and they were like, no, we're not going to let you go. Not again. History is not going to repeat itself. And I'm like, yeah, like, no, my generation is safe because, like, we have fundings. We've been surrounded by, like, the world's biggest number first power. How could people from, like, let's say Pakistan, Taliban from Pakistan, come here and invade us? Like, that's not even possible. They have lied to a generation for 20 years straight. So I'm not 20, I'm 18.
Yeah.
So since I was born,
For the whole life.
Pretty much my whole life, they have lied to me, and I've been lied to. And yeah, I wouldn't say, like, okay, there are differences, which is really tragic differences, and I didn't expect them to happen. But there are not differences as well. Let's say if you're talking about peace and talking about, let's say, tranquility in my life, I've never had it. I've always been living in a state of war, in a state of bombardment, in a war-torn country, and I wasn't safe. I didn't feel mostly safe in Afghanistan, and especially after Taliban, I didn't at all. And the fact is that when you're little, your understanding of the world and the issues are less and pretty much vague.
Yeah.
When you're growing up and growing up and growing up, and you're seeing the world and being exposed to a lot of information, and you have your own biases as well, that makes me even more harder. That makes you less close to peace and more close to, like, chaos in your own mind. And for my life, it was different because I was a girl who could go to school, who could go to any educational institutions with any sort of, as long as I was wearing my hijab and I wasn't wearing something really weird. I wasn't wearing shorts. I was accepted into society. There were some social sort of gender issues that yeah, but they were not too much. I could fight against them. I did a lot in my very own school as well. And I was going to school. I was going to educational centers. I was studying. I had a goal. People had a goal in their life. We had a government. We had a rule. We had a military. I was feeling sort of safe, although not, but still. But the difference is that I turned from a person who was like, oh, you're accepted in my society. You're a girl. You matter. You're a human being, to a person with like a long beard coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Doesn't even have the Afghan identity. He comes and he says, you are nothing. You don't matter. You know what their slogan is? They have the slogan they call "Shazaya the Gor," which means woman is either for grave or for home. So as a woman, you don't even matter. As a girl, you don't even matter. They don't even accept you as a human being. They don't see you as a human being. That's why they don't give the rights that a normal human being have. And in the past government, it was we were fighting against, like, gender inequalities, and I would say some of them actually worked. There was corruption, but still the programs, some of them worked. Actually, people were, like, getting more educated. But in this government, the first day that they came, I remember their talk. It was, this is not a democratic government. We are not a government for people, by people, for people. They said that. So being said that,
established
a very one-sided government. It's not even a government. It's like a terrorist group that is just trying to show their power and authority over other people. And then there was they also mentioned in their statement that women are nothing for us. You know, they just don't matter. We are not Americans, and we are not people who are not Muslim. So that's why, as Muslims, we believe that you should stay in the house and do whatever we command you to do. So that's, like, how different it was. Like, I went from a person with a value to a person with no value. A person who could go outside as a human being, although it wasn't safe for girls, and yeah, you had to be really cautious.
But I mean, it was never like that.
But I went from, like, not going out to going out with only with a male if I was dying, only to the hospital or something. I was always like locked in the house.
Wow.
And that's like the whole major tragic thing that happened, and that really played with our mental health problems. Although it wasn't in a good state, we were, before that, Taliban were bombarding everywhere, and that already gave you it's not a PTSD, it's a TSD, you know, like a traumatic disorder. But it's at the same time, when Taliban came, it was a chaotic silence that silenced us as a ethnic, sorry, as a gender, and said, you don't matter. Yeah, so that's how it happened. And I would say, like, I didn't like it at all.
No,
Hated it.
of course, no. I mean,
A very tragic difference.
no, it's like, for me, it's crazy to believe that it can actually happen. So that's why I'm like sitting completely numb, you know, like just, yeah, it's just crazy that it can be like just one day and that's it, and you're not valued anymore. Like,
you're not valued anymore, and it's like after August 15th, I'm not a human being.
wow,
you know,
that's
I'm
like,
not counted as a human being in that country. To be able to fight for my own rights and get my own rights, access my own rights,
right.
you know.
So in 2021, it means that you were out of school, or like how it actually like happened? What was the process? One day they just said you don't show up and that's it, and or you cannot leave the house without a mail, or like what was the, like, you know, let's say the day,
Steps.
the steps, or the day, how did it happen?
Well, first of all, we already knew about Taliban and their rules because they governed Afghanistan for 5 years. And for 5 years, back in before 2001, they didn't allow girls to go to school for 5 years. You cannot even imagine that. Not any girls, not school, not any educational centers, not anywhere. And we knew that whenever they come, they will not allow Afghan girls to go to school, Afghan women to work, any women is just set to be in the house.
And they're also paid for that, like for sitting in the house, or not even that?
They're not.
Because
no one is paid for sitting in the
paid.
house.
Okay.
No, not at all. And then we knew this, that it's going to happen. But the 15th of August, like when they actually came, it was a shock because I had my last exam in my country.
Yeah.
Sorry, in my school. It was my computer exam.
Okay.
We had subject, it was computering. We were just learning about, like, let's say Windows or something, or like Word. So that's like I had my exam and I was like ready to go. I had my everything packed up and I was like going to school, and then I got a call from my friend and she was like, you shouldn't go, because Taliban just came to the center, like the capital. They reached here, and I was like, that's like a lie, you know. I cannot believe it. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna give my exam because I don't want to fail it, and I don't, like, I was determined about my exam. And then I'm calling my principal, and I'm like, Miss, like, what do you think? Like, should we come? And she was like, if you come, that's like your responsibility. We are not responsible for anything here. And your house is near. Yes, you can go back, but it's better not to come. So she sort of said in a way that don't come.
That don't come.
And then from that day on, we knew that there's two ways, 50-50. There's two possibilities. One, that they have changed a little, and they do allow, like, women education after some time. Okay, they say wear this, wear that, but still they would allow it. Or they would go and be back to the people who were 20 years ago and actually not allow it, which happened. That 50% chance turned into 100%, and they did the same thing that they did 20 years ago. And but the first day, it was like a war, let's say. So you don't care about your school when you're in a war, you know.
No, of
a terrorist group comes to your country and you don't care about your education at that point, let alone anything else. And the first days, we didn't go to school. After our first days, they were giving statements in the, we have, I don't know what to call it, but like the sort of the White House of Afghanistan.
Okay.
And there was giving statements that for now the education for girls was suspended until further notices. We want to make subjects and the uniforms really Islamic way, not in a liberal way that it was. That's why we need time, and we need time, and we need time, and we need time. And we were just waiting. So until that point, they didn't say exactly that they didn't allow girls to go to school.
Yeah.
And we were waiting. So this academic year was finished, and the next academic year was going to start. And then we went to school, and the academic day, they told teachers, they told everyone that school is open. Everyone, girl can come.
Right.
I wore my uniform. I went to the school, and I was staying there, and we were sort of all in the line. And as always, the principal was giving a speech, and his speech, he was completely a different person. He was so sad. You couldn't even get the reason why. And then before starting anything else, before even saying hi, he was like, I am so sorry to say this, but we just got a call from Taliban saying that education for girls over 7th grade is suspended. I'm very sorry, you cannot come to the school. Get out of the school right now. And that's how they told at first they were like, oh, this is like education is suspended for a short period of time. After that, they initially said, don't ask any questions about it. We don't have any plans for it.
Right.
Yeah. And they said that in their government, in their party, there's no women allowed, because they've been asked a lot since when they were coming.
Right.
A lot of journalists asked this question. They were like, no, the entrance of women or the inclusion of women in our group is not allowed. Yeah. Completely saying it out loud in the world, and we're talking about it. It's not something fictional, it's happening.
No, it's
right
happening,
in a country, and that is like really weird because not much is done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's like crazy for me to realize that, like me living safely in my, home country, not actually knowing, because I mean, of course you get the news, but at the same time, I mean, the perspectives are always limited and you cannot like, actually hear those personal stories and realize how bad it is in reality.
Yeah.
And so what are the views on that situation from like, Afghan perspective?
We have this thing in Persian. We say batangomat, bajangomat, which means if you're reaching your whole point of patience, you're gonna fight.
Okay.
I mean, you have capacity to wait and be patient and be nice to a person.
Right.
And that has happened throughout history as well. Like you have waited and waited and waited, and then finally there's a war. You cannot continue anymore.
Yeah.
It's been almost 3 years that girls cannot go to school. Almost. And people are not people of 20 years ago. They believe in women education. They believe most of the women in Afghanistan, because their husbands died in the war with Taliban, they're the breadwinners of their family. They cannot wait anymore.
Yeah.
They cannot be a refugee. A lot of people laid hopes in going to be a refugee in other countries. And now, just 3 days ago, there was this massive deporting of Afghans from Iran and Afghanistan and Pakistan back to Afghanistan. Over 2 million refugees from Pakistan, legal and illegal, both were deported back to Afghanistan. That's why people don't even lay hopes to go to other countries.
Right.
They're not even getting accepted to other countries. And you're not barely even accepted to be like a refugee in a country. That's how hard it is. And I think I don't see a future in it. I really don't see a future in their government. They're not abiding by human rights. They're not abiding by international law rights. They're still in the blacklist. The Afghanistan's money and assets are frozen in the international bank. They have not respected the treaties that they made, even the Doha Treaty that they have signed. They haven't respected that. I don't see a future personally. I don't see a future for them to stay in Afghanistan. But honestly, I could never expect anything from the world that let us just free in their hands, in the hands of terrorists. I would not expect much to be done as well.
Right.
By other people, but own Afghanistan people.
Right.
Because you're just the only thing I would say people are like fighting stops people from fighting back is their own fear, because you're fighting against terrorists and they don't have any rules for fighting.
Yeah.
They don't even have rules for fighting. They can fight anyway.
Yeah.
And of course they're getting their military aids and their aids from we know where.
Yeah.
Where they come from. Actually, I mentioned it before, and people are just waiting for them to become better or honestly do something.
Yeah, if you want to still live there, I mean, you have to obey. There is no other way, just like to secure your life. And okay, and as you say, like, yeah, there is no future with this particular government. So how would you say, let's imagine a perfect world wonderland, as you sometimes say, and how would it look like? Like, what do you think, like, Afghanistan can be if, like, things are going to change?
Afghanistan could have been, that's the point, where many years ago we had this mission to be the whole independent nation, a nation with its very own, like, we had a lot of opportunities to grow. And Afghanistan could just go back to that and sort of improve on those points. But for now, in my perspective, Afghanistan is a nation who has a government by people, for people. That is what's important. Not a terrorist group governing the country. A country where gender inequality is not an issue. A country where girls can go to school, women can go to work we have a government that is inclusive, not only in terms of gender, but in terms of ethnic minorities, in terms of ethnic majorities. We have a government for the whole nation of Afghanistan, not as corrupt as it was before Taliban. It was that government wasn't just, it was a nomadic one.
Right.
It wasn't a real government, something better than that. And a country with a president, a country that is known by other countries, and in terms of international laws, and that is like I imagine to be a wholesome Afghanistan, a wholesome wonderland.
Right.
Yeah, but the first thing that I would imagine is the freedom. We are called free, but we are not free. We are in the hands of terrorists, and that is more than colonization. That is more than imperialization. That is just pure genocide of a whole nation, 36 million people, and you're just abandoning them in the hands of some people that are not even Afghan.
Yeah. And would you say, like, within that coverage, like, people, I mean, whom you're surrounded by, like, would you say there is this longing for freedom, or there are, like, a lot of people who accept the things the way they are, and they're like, no?
There comes tiredness and boredom with war. So a country that has been through 40 years of war, which means first generation died in war, second generation grew old in war, the other generation grew younger in war, and the other generation was born in war. So 4 decades of war makes people tired. And even now that they have the worst situation, they just want to, it's not rest, but at least they don't want to start anything big. But at the same time, I told you that if they reach their capacity of patience, and if people are dying from hunger, there is this cases in Afghanistan, people like families of like, let's say 9, 8, 7 people, they're selling their own kids to, let's say, richer families to get money to the rest of their family. Their own, very own child.
Is it for the marriage, or just we're
No
just
marriage,
selling?
like just selling, not adoption or something,
Yeah.
selling. So even if that the other family does whatever to this kid, it is not their responsibility. So that's how like the 99 or 98% of the people are under the line of poverty. And we're not talking about just numbers. We're talking about real people. And I've seen that because when I went to Kabul, and unlike other people, I stepped outside, and it was dangerous as a girl to do that. But you were just seeing people like actually begging you for one HKD, or even like 5 cents or something.
Right. But
They're begging you.
Can you get something for that?
I mean, if you're in a good sort of financial state, and if you're a person who is really generous, me and my family would usually do
No,
that.
of course, but like for such a little amount of like, money, can you even get
I mean, not
anything?
most people can,
Right.
but some people can. So those generous people, they really try to do it. There are some humanitarian aids, which I mean, humanitarian aid that I don't know where it comes from. How much is it, and how much is it delivered to the people? Because the Taliban's own military, they're not rich as well. They don't even have anything. Their soldiers are crying for food. Like we've seen that they're actually soldiers of them, and that is how we're talking about 98% of the people under the line of poverty. They're just going to do something one day, and I don't think like I don't know. I just don't think it's just going to last forever.
No, of course. No, I mean, there's an end to everything. There is an end to everything. Yeah.
I really do hope.
Yeah. But let's us shed a light on that. I mean, you are yourself trying to take the initiative to, to get the things going and put an end to all of that. So you are a founder of a pilot, what is that, organization to kind of provide education to Afghan girls. Maybe you can talk more about that.
I'll try to be safe about it.
Yeah.
But it was a pilot project that I thought like for my own very hard that I could sleep at night, which is very selfish, but still. Me and my co-year Zavara, we were wanting to do like something about a girl's education in Afghanistan, because I've been working with a lot of girls, and I know most of them, they're so desperate for education. They just want like a chance to study, and from like tired hours of joblessness in the day,
Yeah,
just sitting in the house doing nothing, not being able to do anything.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to do something, and then I thought of like, narrowing down the focus to like only teaching two subjects, math and English. And then we were thinking of doing online, but online is like really exclusive. Like,
because not
you're
everyone.
excluding people that are not having a laptop or a phone
Right.
or access to the internet. So we were hiring teachers to teach in person inside the house, sort of very unofficial sort of way of educating kids, and choose their student and then teach them.
Right.
For a period of 3 months. And then we did provide supplies for them, and we gave money, salary to the teachers for their working hours as well. So that we named the project "Let Afghan Girls Learn and Earn," and it was inspired by one of the hashtags when it was going around the time that Taliban did not allow girls to go to school. It was like "Let Afghan Girls Learn," or "Let her learn." That was sort of the inspiration to that name of the project.
Yeah.
That was let's play it safe.
Yeah, that's really nice. Okay, so and yeah, I mean, you being here right now, what would you say? Which opportunities do you seek outside of Afghanistan? Are you still like kind of trying to seek something that is going to help your country to be better in the future? Or you now just like just left it and are settling for your own life somewhere else? I mean,
Trying to focus on learning things and then using that for the benefit of my own people, because they need someone who is educated. They need someone who has this passion in their heart that helps them. And there should be someone who uses their education not only to just grow and get wealthier and grow and richer day by day,
yeah,
but someone who, despite their own personal growth, they're seeking to do something for their own community, to give back, at least to my ancestors, to the people that really did protect me, to the very own land that I have and I am from. That is my focus. But still, in that way, you're going to be a force for another country. You're going to seek refuge. You're not going to live in your own land. But I'm talking about the very end goal.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And what would you say is the beauty of Afghanistan? Is it in people? Is it in nature? Is it like what makes you still a part from? I mean, of course, you will love your country. No matter what happens there, you will love it because I mean that's in your blood. Let's say we're not talking about the government. We're just talking about the people, the country itself. So what would you say the beauty is for you?
It might be different from other people's answers, but for me, part of it, the beauty, is in people, in our culture. It is lovely. Sometimes I see it. You're not going to be able to see it because there's this saying that they were like, if someone who only knows London doesn't even know London. So you're not going to be able to say it when you're in Afghanistan. So my 15 years old, as I said before, she's not going to know this.
Yeah.
But when I came here, I saw the differences, and although some points were just not okay with me, some points were actually lovely. I loved it about my culture. That's why I felt in love with Afghans. And sort of one thing that about Afghans that I love is that our hope. We've been through 4 decades of war. And every time I talk to people, there is that sort of hope in their heart. And you see them, and then they're like, we have one thing that says, Khuda mehraban, which means God is great, or
Right.
God is very kind. And we always say that whatever situation we're going through, we say God is kind. Or even for a person who is not religious, like we have this hope that something's better going to happen, like something better is going to happen. So one thing that I love about me as an Afghan and other people in Afghanistan is that sort of hope, and that really is a motivation or a driving energy to make a difference, to be the difference, honestly. And you talked about nature. Yes, we have a lot of mountains. what I discovered was like so funny because Mount Everest is 8,000 something
Right.
high, and then I was like, okay, there's this high mountain in my country, but I don't know like actually the height of it, honestly. And then I searched it in Google, and it said like, oh, it's like 7,000 something, and I was like, okay, I have a mini Mount Everest in my own country. And then I was like, my aim is to like climb it one day, and then tell people that I climbed mini Mount Everest without even going to another country, getting that visa.
I mean, the biggest mountain in Afghanistan, at least,
The biggest mountain in my own country.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's how I felt in love with the nature. Yes, we have a lot of beautiful views, a lot of beautiful places. Because of the security reasons, I didn't haven't been there, honestly.
Yeah.
But they're amazing. Most of the places that I have been, they're magic.
Really beautiful.
They're magnificent. They're amazing. I love them. Yeah, I mean, nature makes Afghanistan amazing as well, but mostly I would say the culture and the people for most part.
Right. And like, to finalize it all, what would you like the world to know about Afghanistan? What would be your message, to the people who are listening to it right now and who probably, hopefully changed their perspectives and got to know a bit more about that? What would you say will be the final, line?
Final message is that just because people of a country are resilient, you're not allowed to call them war-torn countries. So be a little bit considerate when you're choosing your words to describe a country, because you're just not calling them a war-torn country. And we are not, as Afghan nation, we are not only a war-torn country. We're resilient people. We fought for our independence. We fought for our own rights, and we will continue to do so until we reach that point of independence and human rights and women rights. And a beautiful message to the people is like, don't be afraid to talk to us. Talk to us. We're good people.
Yeah.
We're gonna introduce you to like new perspectives, new views on Afghanistan. And if you have any Afghan like nearby, your nation, your country, you're everywhere, try to go to their house or try to tell them to invite you for a dinner or a lunch. We have the best food. Ask them for mantu. Remember it. It's easy. That's like the best food in Afghanistan. We have the best food, the best culture. It's going to be a little bit spicy, so might as well build up your spice tolerance before that, but still, ask Afghans to take you out for an outing or to their house. That is what you're going to benefit from, actually.
Right.
Yeah. And to the final message to everyone, love you all. For my Afghans, love you all too. And thank you so much for having me here.
Well, tashakkur, should I say? Yeah, I do remember that.
Tashakkur.
No, that was just lovely. Thank you so much. No, I learned so much. You really changed me.
You really changed me. Afghan Belarusian.
Just diplomatic relationship with someone. No, Nargis, that was just wow.
You're amazing. I love the questions.
So much.
I love